Hey guys, it's Frank. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how I landed my $90K senior tech job living in Toronto. First, I just want to address that I'm not here to flex. I literally just thought it would be a good clickbait title, and if I guess you clicked on it, then maybe it worked. But if I actually told you the number of times I got rejected from any sort of job interview, phone interview, final stages of an interview, you'll probably think something is wrong with me. I also want to emphasize that anyone in the business world can achieve what I did, and I hope by sharing my experience, this can help you out as well. If there's one thing that I want you guys to take away from watching this video is understanding that the importance of always applying for work while even holding down your current existing work, and understanding that your career can always just be gone in a split second, and don't let the title of a permanent full-time position be reason to think that you are safe. So hopefully at this point I haven't scared you, and if you like what you're hearing so far, stick around for the rest of this video, and I really would appreciate if you guys could give this video a good old smash, and now we'll jump right into it. Before I dive into how I landed my 90K job, I think it's important to share with you guys how it all started, and that was probably losing my job a couple years ago in sales. All I remember being in tech sales was that it was really fast paced. You get to talk to a bunch of top executives. You're constantly given free stuff like dinners, food, drinks, you name it, all that stuff. So I thought it was the coolest thing. And because this was my official office type of work, I wanted to do a really good job, and I wanted to do anything that was possible to make myself feel older. So I would ramp up with a bunch of cloud certification, tech certifications, just to give me that edge. Another neat thing that I noticed was that, being in this whole new tech area space, I noticed that I had a bunch of call it momentum when I was looking for big tech companies. So I remember when I would apply for the big techs like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, etc., they would very well take my call. I remember doing interviews for those big tech companies, and yeah, they said yes to the interviews until they realized over the phone when I talked, I probably sounded like some young buck, so they said no. So I kind of learned early on that when you have a job already, it's a lot easier to find new work. And it's kind of sad because I find it more challenging when you don't have work and you're applying for work versus when you already have work and you're applying for work, that they're more willing to give you that position. It's almost like that principle of the rich getting richer, and the same thing sadly applies in the workforce. So basically, after a couple years, that dream ultimately failed. I was actually laid off from my position in October of 2020, and my position, how I identified myself was completely shattered, and I started back at $0. Wasn't sure what I wanted to do in my life. I was stuck in Toronto, and I thought it was just going to be the right time for me to move over to Calgary and have a fresh start in that city. At the time that I moved over to Calgary, I found it really challenging to find work for a few reasons. One being that Calgary didn't have much tech jobs in general, and secondly, it was a pandemic, and thirdly, you could argue that, back to the principle that I was saying earlier, I found it challenging to find work when you don't have an existing job. And I remember applying to so many jobs that I would get phone interviews, I would even make it to the final round, and it was just frustrating that I would make it to the very end and I would get the news that I just wasn't a fit, or they chose someone else. And it really put me down, I would say, at this point, because I had been making so much, doing so well in Toronto, and that I dropped everything, or I lost my job, moved over to Calgary, and I wasn't even being able to find any sort of work. I felt like in this time, I kind of lost myself with my whole skill set. I kind of questioned, did I even learn anything in the last 2 years in that tech sales job, or was it all just pure luck? I moved to Calgary in October, so it was April-May period that I finally got a real legitimate job offer that I jumped in immediately. I actually had two. The first one was a contract position that was still fully unionized, but it was based out in Toronto. And the second one was a remote position that was a little bit less in the first year. It was offering me $63,500. It was almost like a new grad position, so I would complete that level 1, and then in that second year, I'd be bumped up to $77K. I decided to accept the second offer just because in terms of long term, one, it was full-time and not contract, and secondly, it would pay me more in the long term, so I accepted that. Moving back to Toronto made things a little bit challenging because although securing work, I was making $63.5K a year, which came out to being about $3,200 net income per month, and my rent was being $1,750. More than half of my bi-weekly paychecks were already going towards my rent. I was fully aware that this was going to happen because, like I said earlier, I recognized that my first year into this organization, I was making $63.5K a year. But in that second year, should I fulfill my duties and my responsibilities, I was going to be promoted to a next position, call it like level 2, and I was going to be making $77K a year. After a year of grinding it out came my current position that I'm holding, and that is being in cybersecurity. I was promoted to a cybersecurity position, now making $77K a year, and arguably this is one of my favorite positions that I've been in. My monthly net income was about $4,000, so $2,000 bi-weekly, and that was able to cover my rent at $1,750 and a little bit more. And that second paycheck, that other $2,000, would be my money for other things such as like food, groceries. I was finally netting a decent amount of money each and every single month, and I kind of felt like I was back to a couple years ago when I was in tech sales. Although content in my current position where I'm loving the position, I'm making decent money, I was still applying for new work, and I didn't do that with really any intentions of actually leaving this company or my position because I actually did like everything about it. I did, however, have that mindset of like, you never know until you apply and see what goes on. I heard all the stories from my upper management teams, older colleagues that was saying that I had to pay my dues, do a lot more years of experience before they'd even consider me. But I said, screw it, I'm gonna apply, see what happens. Funny enough, like what I said, after applying to these positions, despite me holding down a position, I somehow landed a senior tech position that's at $90K. And it came at a time that I was least expecting it in December during Christmas period. And it just kind of just validated my mindset where I just said, don't be content with your current position, because one, your job can always just go in a matter of seconds, and that you should just apply and see what comes out of it. It was lucky in the sense that they gave me a chance, but a second thing that you could argue is that I always like to use the analogy of luck being rolling a dice. Like if you roll a dice, you have a 1 in 36 chance of landing a certain number, but you continue to roll that dice over and over again, then something good might come out of it. And I don't know, maybe this is just me being optimistic, but I like to play the game of rolling the dice, and I somehow landed this senior tech position that's, highly secure in this organization, and I'm really excited to see what comes out of it. The crazy thing about this is that I know on paper 90K does seem a decent amount, but living in a city like Toronto, it feels like it's barely scratching middle class. I'm not going to act like 90K is nothing, because I've been there where I was making minimum wage for the longest time, scratching contract work, doing all this extra work to just even get to where I am right now. But it does feel nice, but I'm not fully content, and I think that's a good lesson that I've learned so far. One last thing that I have to share with you guys is that despite all the years that I've been working so far, and I know I'm still young, I learned there are certain underappreciated, undervalued skills that are not emphasized enough. And those are things of your skills of just communicating, holding eye contact, speaking confidently with other people that I find are just so rare. And that if you can master just being a nice person, a person that's just reasonable, those things are going to take you way farther than any sort of tech skills, code skills, marketing skills, you name it. It's just be a good person, have good communication skills, and you'll be quite surprised how far you can go. So there you guys have it. That's how I landed my 90K senior tech job living in Toronto. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comment section down below. And if you guys made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for following my good old millennial journey. I appreciate each and every single one of you who have subscribed to my channel, leave a comment, share this video. And what else can I say? I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace.